Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, get more of the sports you love on Sports Extra with BT Sport and Premier Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then.
What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Oh no, watch out everybody. Kenny Cunningham is in for the football show. They said it couldn't be done. Here he is.
How you talking about Morocco reaching a World Cup semi-final? It couldn't be done.
Let's go through all the games. First time I've spoken to you. So Qatar 0, Ecuador 2, opening
Didn't
day.
say it. I was covering the Ireland Malta game.
Actually,
yeah. Straight after it. So I didn't even. So that's what I'm saying. So the opening game usually razzmatazz, completely. So I was actually chasing my tail a bit. I felt as if it took me a little bit of time almost to get up to speed. Well, it was the greatest of games, was it?
Yeah.
The first game, but
like 24 hours to get up to speed. Because you were doing Iran, England the next day. Actually, you were talking about how cold the stadium was in that commentary.
The stadium?
Yeah, you were saying to Des.
No, not one of them, Joe.
You were saying to Des.
Don't tell lies. Don't tell fibs.
You said, never thought I'd see the day.
Don't tell fibs. No, you always get found out.
I was wondering if you flew home from Doha that night or the next morning.
I learned that early on, Joe. Don't tell fibs. Unless you're really smart. You can cover your tracks, which I'm not. So
I was watching you the other evening, right? And I had a thought.
I could have done with a few more thoughts in front of the camera.
I think it was. Were you on with Karen Duggan the other evening? You were in a blue suit. Just a couple of days ago.
Jesus, Joe, you got to give me more than that.
Well, I can't remember anything you said.
Every stitch of clothing I've got in the bloody house has been on parade for the past kind of 3 weeks.
Well, anyway, I think it was Karen
Duggan. I need to do a bit of shopping.
Karen Duggan middle, and you were on the outside, and there was a side view
Netherlands
of you.
game, was it?
Yeah, side view of you quite a lot. And do you know what I thought to myself? Incredible posture, Kenny Cunningham.
I thought you were going to say Roman nose. I thought you were going to say side profile.
That is the posture.
Joe, where's this
international
going?
captain.
Joe, where's this going?
That's all I thought, genuinely.
You're burning me up, lad. You're burning me up. It's not going to work.
Diddy a man sliding off the couch every time I see him. Someone get him a coffee.
Duffers had a bit of a slouch on, to be honest with myself.
You don't often see such good posture on TV. That is genuinely what I thought. The side view, you're sitting.
I am suffering a bit of sciatic at the moment. That's a contributory factor potentially.
You're sitting stiffly. I knew there was something. Because someone I was watching the game with,
no, I try not to slouch,
happened to say to me, "Is he the lad that's sometimes in with you?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes,
"The lad?
He's very prim and proper here. He's sitting
prim and proper,
just very like butter wouldn't melt," was the phrase used.
Jesus,
days
are long gone.
I know. How has the World Cup been for you?
Yeah, well, there's no point in asking me. I've got to be honest with you. Yeah,
you watched it, didn't you?
Yeah, but it's different, Joe, isn't it? When you're in it. You're in the kind of middle of it to a certain extent.
You're
it's
not
crash bang wallop. It's going on around you, and obviously you're doing your thing. Obviously, which I have been out in RTE. So it got to a point there, maybe a week in, where I began to think I'm actually missing games because you do your few bits, you get out, you arrive back to whatever. I was in my Mars there for a few days. I was missing games. That 4 o'clock, I do the 10 o'clock, 1 o'clock, missed the 4. Then you're scrambling maybe for the late one. So yeah, it's different. It's a different experience, maybe the likes of yourself, or maybe traditionally, you're at home, you're planning your day. I don't know many games people were watching where people...
We're all missing them. I'm missing them at work. You're missing them at work. Everyone's missing some at work. But we're getting a sense of it.
Yeah, but it's like... but it's funny you should say that, because I was saying to somebody at the start of it, right off. First 2 games right off, because I was in for the first week in the 2 early games. And I was saying, wherever it was Kevin, I was saying, listen, nobody's watching these 2 games. It's just me and you and whatever, a few of the housewives, whatever, the kids couldn't get any sleep. But very quickly became obvious that people were, you know better than me, in terms of social media, streaming, phones, were tapping into those early games,
honestly,
different avenues, as opposed to traditional.
It's not traditional. Anytime I went on Twitter, those 10 o'clock games, you were still getting hammered by people. I enjoyed you and Joey and Doe had a good afternoon together. That's the fun part of a World Cup, where you're catching different games. You feel like no one else is watching, but everyone's watching. As you said, phones and
the time was perfect. I don't think you'll get that. The times where I wouldn't say
perfect.
Were they perfect? It wasn't far off perfect, was it?
It couldn't be better. And even for us, 7 o'clock, the game's finished for 9. We do the full football show on them. Everything about it has been perfect.
If you don't like your football though, and you're at home, you're flicking through every time you bang that RT2 button.
Yeah, there's Kenny Cunningham.
9 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock at night. Wall to wall football. That's tough.
If it wasn't for your posture, would have been a lot of unhappy people, but there's something to be admired there. So your issues with not seeing all the games notwithstanding, from what you have seen,
that was a little bit.
Have you enjoyed the World Cup?
Yeah, I have, I suppose. Yeah, I think I have. No, I'd honestly
Let's start with an easier question. What time
No,
is
have
it?
you enjoyed it?
Yes.
So it'd be easier.
Yes, I have. Now,
Really?
I have enjoyed it thoroughly, and at the same time, and I don't know how far you down this route you want to go, I am repulsed by the way the Qataris have gone about this. I'm repulsed by FIFA. I find the whole thing disgraceful. But on a as a tournament, as a World Cup, it's been an incredible football event, you know.
And I think that's okay. And I think generally a lot of people would row in behind that kind of sentiment which you said there, because I think initially there was a lot of maybe little bit of guilt in terms of having those genuine feelings about the issues that you've said and allowing yourself to actually park that to a point and actually enjoy the spectacle of what you were saying. I think a lot of people were wrestling with that, Joe, weren't we, at the start of the tournament? But I think that's fair. I think people have got beyond that a little bit and said, no, I'm not going to beat myself up over this. I'm going to try and enjoy what I'm saying as a spectacle. And people love it.
Yeah.
You know, people love their football, love their sports, once every 4 years. And
I can't think of a more dramatic final round of the group stages into last 16, and then the last couple of days have just been off the charts. As a collective, I can't remember a bad night, an undramatic night, really. It's been pretty much great.
You said that, didn't you, about I remember looking at the last 16 thinking maybe not too many standout games. Remember those last 16 games, you were looking at it thinking, yeah, decent, but nothing jumping off the page. But you're right, a bit of excitement came to them. I remember being in there one morning, it might have been Joey Endo was in with me, but looking at the games the night before, looking what it was doing, it was the Serbia-Cameroon game, wasn't it, in Ghana and South Korea. No, you can never tell football, don't get me wrong, but you're looking at it and you're thinking, probably lucky if we get one half decent game there, we've done well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think there was 2 big hitters on afterwards, Joe, later on the later games, and wow, I mean, this just took off, them 2 games. Serbia 3-1 up, Cameroon came back 3-3, unbelievable. Joey doing laps to the studio, obviously. And then the game after that, Ghana and South Korea, unbelievable. South Korea's second half were amazing. Came back into the game. That was like end to end. It was great football. So, yeah, you never know. You can't hang your hat in any game at any given moment to surprises you. And I think there has been more surprises than generally. Most World Cups, you can pick out 1 or 2 games, can you?
Yeah.
In terms of the minnows, and that surprised me. Who would have thought that? But yeah, there's been games in this World Cup. Even early on, Saudi Arabia, obviously the big one for me. Yeah, you're right. I covered the England-Iran game. Forgot about that, but obviously no big surprise there. Yeah, but but that Saudi Arabia game, Argentina, the first one. Whoa, that's when it took off for me. That performance from Saudi Arabia, I just wasn't expected, because you do as much research, Joe, as in terms of, you look at whatever they present you, you do a bit of digging yourself in terms of Saudi Arabia players, try and get as much information as you can, and you try and pitch it before the game as best you can in terms of what you have in front of you and what you've seen, which isn't very much. A lot of their players that play wouldn't play in Europe. But then that performance that day just kind of blew me away a little bit in terms of like physicality, energy, like organisation, defensive structure, like really tactically very astute, all of those things.
Are your favourite team Morocco?
Yeah, that's kind of come, isn't it? I wouldn't say that Saudi Arabia performance, I was like, wow, I'm all in here, absolutely all in. I saw Tunisia play early, their opening game, loved them in terms of their setup, defensive. So I'm going to be repeating myself here, like Saudi Arabia, Tunisia, Morocco, going to start talking about defensive organisation, defensive structure. So that's actually hardened me in this World Cup, because over the last 10 years, grown so accustomed to the game. Now, as the game's evolved, possession-based game, attack-minded, high press, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Defensive structure, defensive mentality and things like this, defensive organisation. Oh, yeah, boring. A lot of it's like, oh, yeah, bore off, like, you know what I mean? Let's talk about something exciting. But it's almost bubbled up to the surface again at this tournament, those teams that I've mentioned, in terms of the debate, if you are defensively well set up, your defensive structure is sound, if you actually commit to it, if you actually respect it and kind of put in due diligence and do the hard graft in terms of setting up your team, see how far it can take you. Morocco, I'd give a good example of that, and even the Saudi Arabians and Tunisia. It makes you competitive, Joe. Man for man, you can't match up to the better teams, the European, the South American teams.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to make up that gap? How are you going to bridge that gap? Well, this is how you do it. Good defensive organisation, good defensive structure, can get you close and can get you competitive. So I found that refreshing. And maybe there's a couple of coaches now looking at how those teams have performed during the course of this tournament, thinking, you know what, maybe there is a place in the modern game for a team that's defensively sound and has actually got defenders with good attributes. Maybe I've got to stop looking at centre halves who can play out or good with 2 feet, who can hit 60-yard diagonal passes and look the part, but can track a run and can tackle. Maybe I've got to have a look at that again. So I found that interesting in terms of the competition.
Oh, for sure. And so Morocco, a lot of people are pointing to Mourinho's Inter Milan as one of the last teams that really embraced it to that extent and almost controlled games without the ball a little bit. So just these past 48 hours, obviously no games last night, but the 2 nights before that, we've had Morocco beating Portugal, we have had Croatia, Brazil, we've had Netherlands, Argentina, and of course we've had France, England. So which of those 4 games do you want to give me your thoughts on? Which of those did you enjoy the most? They're all extraordinary, weren't they? As 4 quarterfinals.
Yeah.
You'd do well to find a better collective.
All different, like you say. The England France game, very kind of measured game. Probably panned out exactly as we thought. Tactically, kind of very interesting, but 2 teams almost had each other's number. It was that type of game. Narrow, fine margins throughout the course of the game. No big, massive ebb and flow necessarily to the game. Nothing surprised you the way that game kind of panned out. So that was interesting in itself. Don't get me wrong. Whereas say the kind of the Netherlands Argentina game, which I was actually covering.
Yeah.
I mean, the last kind of 20 minutes in normal time, and then the last period of extra time was just madness, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like absolute madness. The first half of that game was pretty tepid. People tell me, Netherlands, Argentina, amazing.
It was better than I thought.
First half was dreadful.
Like the first half? I thought it was better than I thought it was going to be.
I thought it was tepid. I was really disappointed with the Dutch kind of first half. Argentina kind of did their thing, stayed in the game.
Yeah.
But a kind of second half, bit of momentum, substitutions. Netherlands are chasing the game. Paredes comes. I was talking to somebody doing that Paredes obviously who's plays for Argentina in central midfield, and it looked. I was looking at when he came onto the pitch. He was like bull in a china shop when he came on. He was literally just taking people out left, right, and centre.
Well, his strike at the Dutch bench is one of the great moments.
But if I'd have walked into the sitting room and sat down and seen the substitution, him coming on the pitch and seen how he played for the first 10 minutes, I would have thought Argentina were 2-0 down.
Okay.
Because he came on with the attitude that I need to change something. The whole dynamic of this game.
Need to be a disruptor.
It's all got to go off. I've got to start picking fights, got to start upsetting people, get the whole benches involved. And they were 2-0 up at the time.
Yeah.
Argentina need to do exactly the opposite. They need to calm it down.
What can I do to make people lose their calm?
It was unbelievable what he actually did. And the Dutch, it actually helped the Dutch, I thought, energised and got them angry.
Did you enjoy Van Dijk flooring your man when that was all kicking off?
Bit of it, there wasn't. But I thought Paredes was very unlucky, Joe, because he got booked for the original foul, and then he smashed that ball into the bay. Joe, that's an automatic yellow card. And he said that's his second yellow card.
Definitely,
he could easily been off like 2 yellow cards in quick succession. So that was great. Would have
been one of the all-time great cameos for you. Come on, disrupt the game. They're comfortably and get sent off.
I just couldn't believe it. But is that Argentinian thing? So you're asking me about defensive.
Yeah.
So that's why for me I got a soft spot for Argentina, because they never strayed away from that generally over the last 20 since I've been watching football. In terms of they integrate, the art to defend is something which they respect. That's how I always feel when I see Argentina play. They got defenders, good defensive mentality, the structure of the team. It's always there. You can see it. We value the defensive side of the game. We're going to be hard to beat. This is kind of our building blocks, our fundamentals. We build from here. They've always had that.
So do you rate them? Because they've been talked about as very, very average aside from Messi.
No, I do rate them. I think that's one of their strengths as well. I like that the back three. Martinez came into a back three. They started with the back forward into Romero and Otamendi. I was a little bit Mendy due to his age. But Martinez has come in and done well when he's been asked to come in. So that back three to me looks pretty tight. Okay. But it's the forward players who've really disappointed me, because before the tournament I was saying, look, Messi's not going to do this on his own. Kind of the support cast is going to have to chip in. And I was talking to support cast, I was talking about Di Maria, Gomez, Dybala, Correa, Lautaro Martinez, I'm a big fan of at Inter Milan. Yeah. None of them it's only Alvarez mainly who's pitched up the last couple of games and been a little bit busy in and around them. And I think that's why he's gone to a back three and a front two. Because I don't think he can pick three forwards at the moment. If it's only Messi and another.
Martinez is at a kind of crisis of confidence mid-tournament almost. Because he was close to scoring against Saudi Arabia, but they were ruled offside and then didn't play well the next game. And suddenly he's out of the team and his head is spinning. But
I just feel as if the penalty which won them the previous game, maybe that might confidence, and he might find him, because I think he's their best centre forward to play alongside Messi. It's just that just hasn't done enough. I think that's why he's pitched that little Alvarez up there alongside Messi, just be busy and run around. I don't think he's maybe top class Alvarez, but
and what have you made of Messi?
I tell you what, first game was difficult for him. They didn't play well. Saudi Arabia got around them, so he kind of gave up the ball more than I expected. So I was really worried for him after that first game for a load of different reasons. But since then, I'd have to say, really impressed with the team and him in particular. And I tell you what's impressed me most about him, Joe, just physically, is fitness levels.
Strong.
No, not strong, but just getting over the ground. Last game, Holland, like pressing, like running 20, 25 yards, high intensity, closing down defenders. And, repeating that process over the course of 90 minutes.
Walking as well, no?
Yeah, at times, but no, the last couple of games, no. I think he's been moving well over the pitch. Now, you can say he's conserving energy, of course he is, but when he's had to go, he's gone at some speed.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at him. I don't see Messi as this tournament's going on, as I thought, physically deteriorate and walking around the pitch. I actually seen a little bit the opposite. Saw a little bit that maybe the start of the tournament, but almost if he's getting second wind a bit. And that game against Holland, what impressed me most about him was his energy levels around the pitch. He was actually getting around the pitch in and out of possession, and that's great. And if the players around them can up their game, the kind of forward players I'm talking about, I thought the manager got it wrong in midfield against the Netherlands, because that Fernandes at Benfica, I'm a big fan of that. Enzo Fernandes, young lad, really good player, box to box midfielder, Joe. He can do everything. He can arrive, he can score goals. Saw his goal against Mexico, came off the bench, brilliant finish. But he pitched him as a number 6, a holding midfielder against the Netherlands, and he pushed that to Rodrigo de Paul higher up the pitch. And for me, he got it the wrong way around. And in extra time, when Argentina came on strong, they had those 6-7 chances in the second half of extra time. He was the one, Fernandes was the one instigating it in and around the box, shots, crosses, getting involved. So I think there's a couple of things there they can think of, but I think there's more to come.
Okay.
That's not the best what we've seen.
Well, they have Croatia next. Let's talk Croatia. Croatia, Brazil.
Yeah, so I didn't see the game from start to finish. This is what I'm talking about, scratching around somewhere. I only saw bits of that game.
They were under the cosh massively. And then somehow through resilience, experience, and ultimately technique, which is like what this team is based on, they kept hanging in there.
Yeah.
And then they made it happen. And then penalties, they were sublime. And I think that's their technique coming to the fore. And then Modric stayed on the whole game. And he's just been kind of perfection. Every time he gets the ball, he does something good with it. Like, he's just a joy. So they're hard not to love. They lack, obviously, they lack that striker up top to make them really scary. They'll probably have more of the ball against Argentina, will they? Who wins in midfield there? Kovacic has been brilliant, by the way. Sorry, Kovacic has been very good as well. Yeah,
no, always had those technical players, Brozovic in the central area of the pitch. So you're right, Joe. They're not a team that sits in and can't get a hold of the ball. Because those technicians which you have in central midfield, they can get hold of the ball, they can take the ball off you for periods of time. So they're never like constantly under the cosh.
That's
you know
what
I mean?
Did. When Brazil were having really intense periods and one chance, two chance, men in the box, keeping the ball going again, there were definitely periods where Croatia said, yeah, we're just going to keep the ball for 5 minutes, and went nowhere with it.
Yeah.
And again, that savvy, that know-how, because they don't have the physicality to compete with other teams.
You're right, savvy is right. They're street smart. They're an experienced team, and
they seem to be like the same wavelength to understand what's required on a given moment.
But there's no, I think that's the experience, an easy thing to say, but I saw a bit with France actually against England second half, and England kind of took the game away from them a little bit, but teams like that, and Croatia would be the same. Don't panic. We haven't got the ball, or we're not quite at it. Can't seem to quite get where we'll trust ourselves. Don't worry, he'll come. Let's just stay in the game, like you're saying. Everybody's calm. No frustration doesn't bubble up. No Paredes moments. People exactly. You know what I mean? Just stay calm. No, we trust ourselves. We'll get it in a minute. We'll keep it. Okay. It's not quite not quite at it, but we don't have to be. We can win this game 70-75%. We've done it before. We'll do it again. You know, that type of thing. I saw a little bit of that with France second half against England when we were kind of under the cosh, not conceding a load of chances, but couldn't get hold of the ball, getting pinned a little bit. But again, no panic. We'll wait. You know, we'll come again. That moment will present itself later in the game where we'll take it.
Yes. And
we'll pinch this game if we have to, you know, by hook or by crook.
Yeah.
That type of mentality. You're right. I think Croatia have that. That's what makes them dangerous against Argentina. But I just, you know, Croatia don't have Messi. That's you know what I mean. So that's the difference at the moment. That's how impressed I have been.
Right. Okay.
With Messi.
On Brazil, I mean, it's such an interesting World Cup because so many great players are coming to the end, and their legacies are being written over the course of a day or two. And so Neymar, who I've never really liked, never felt he had done enough to warrant the status, delivers one of the great World Cup goals. It's a glorious moment. The breakthrough against this Croatian team they can't break down. You know,
is that enough though, Joe? A goal?
No, it's not. But
over the course of a tournament, now he's had an injury.
I suppose you're thinking at that point, wow, if he comes alive here and does something in the next game and propels Brazil to a World Cup, it changes his legacy a touch.
Oh, potentially, like that had been the case. Yeah, you understand.
It's ifs, buts, maybes. But then it's taken away from him, and that's Brazil gone. There was a bit of I don't know, is it Schadenfreude or a certain rejoicing in Brazil getting knocked out? I think a lot of people saw them as a touch wasteful, a touch flat track bullying.
Flat track bullying. Oh, the dancing. What's that?
Well,
what's that to do with bullying though? Oh, that's different, is it?
Flat track bullies, as in, they can whoop a lesser team, but then when it comes to the crunch against Croatia,
right, the soft centre you're talking about.
Soft underbelly, soft centre.
I was interested in like the setup. But it's always looking at teams in terms of who's on the pitch, who's on the bench. Balance, is that the best team for this particular? Game was never quite sold in terms of their setup early on. And when I saw midfield of Casemiro, Paqueta and Neymar, that was a midfield three more or less. Now Paqueta maybe played as a two alongside Casemiro. That didn't fill me with confidence. That looked a little bit kind of powder for me. Paqueta plays as like a 10.
Oh, sorry.
West Ham have bought him as a 10, like, you know what I mean?
This was the questioning at the start of the tournament, and the argument was, well, look, you can't leave the rest of these guys out because they're so good going forward, and for balance, the full-backs don't really bomb on akin to, they're not Roberto Carlos and Cafu. They'll sit in, and Brazil are good defensively, but it just never felt like it was going to be the right approach in these crunch games. Yeah, I think so, because I look at kind of Gomes on the bench this season, well, last 12 months he's had for Newcastle. I just felt as if the balance would have been better with him in the team. A bit more kind of physicality, a bit more dynamism. Can go box to box, but he can sit in alongside Casemiro, who I think actually needs a little bit of help. I wouldn't be a massive fan. Casemiro's a fine player, don't get me wrong, but he's a little bit compromised from an athletic point of view. He's not the quickest over the ground. And for me, he benefits for having somebody alongside him. Ideally, another like-minded defensive operator. And Gomes is that for me. Paqueta's not that. No. You can argue, well, Paqueta was in a lot. They were playing as a two. Tim Vickery was saying apparently Paqueta and Neymar have a great relationship, and this could be part of the thinking. But that's Brazil. That's
crazy. Yeah, but you get. I think invariably you get found out. You get found out. It was like the penalty kick, wasn't it? Like Neymar. I mean, straight away you're thinking. There's been enough instances now over the years to know.
Yes.
You've got to get your best penalty takers 1, 2, 3. You've got to get your best penalty takers taking a penalty, Joe.
Do you think it's ego and wanting the flash pub?
Of course it is.
There's no other logic.
But that's where the manager has to step in. And the manager's needs strong management to say, yeah, I know you're thinking here. Yeah, I know there's an argument, potentially if it goes to the fifth. Yeah, you're the man I want
for the
on the ball.
But
the chances is, if it doesn't go, I can't allow that to happen. This isn't a personal thing. I'm the manager. This is my decision. You're taking the 4 second, or for me, probably the third penalty is always the most important one. There's always some significance attached to that, whether you're behind or in front.
Yes.
There's always,
Crunch
for me,
time.
almost added pressure.
Yeah.
People say, it's got to be the first, but you missed the first, you got 4 chances to kind of put it right. For me, the third penalty, I've always felt for a period of time now, your best penalty taker takes the third one.
Well, there's a book written about penalties, and players are certainly more likely to miss a penalty that they have to take to stay in the shootout.
Yeah.
That's when the most pressure is on. If there's a penalty you're most likely to miss in your life, it's the one to stay in the shootout. I think that's third often.
So I think you hold one back. He wouldn't be our best, but I trust him. Hold him back. Don't hold back your absolute cast iron saint. I can trust him.
Yeah.
Number 4, as Portugal did with Cristiano Ronaldo, wasn't it? A couple of tournaments.
Ronaldo did it too, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. For me, that's actually we all understand that. For me, that's weak management.
And do you feel genuinely, because it's amazing at this top level, ego plays such a part, do you feel it is more ego than pressure, the fifth kick, I'll hold a good guy back? You think it's more ego?
Of course.
It is.
Yeah, big chunk.
That's a disgrace, really, isn't it, though?
Yeah, because of what we're saying kind of makes sense. We're putting forward a measured argument in terms of 1-2. Yeah, so that's you can't argue with that. You can't argue with that. The first 3 penalties is significant. You'll always get an opportunity. You're rolling the dice. Fourth and certainly fifth pay, you're rolling the dice where they're actually going to get a chance to step up and take it.
Mo Salah in the African Cup of Nations didn't take one as well.
Yeah. Will you watch what about Messi the other night against what was the
Netherlands?
Against the Netherlands, yeah.
We were just talking about
it. First pay had to be.
And you even
I would have toured. Don't get me wrong. I would have put him toured, but at least he got the chance to take the penalty.
There's a certain messaging there as well, isn't there? Like it's a setting a tone. We mean business. Best player first up, score. There's a momentum.
I think there's a little bit of that as well. Sending your bet, Messi going up there, the captain, leading by. I think there's a little bit of psychology that can affect players a little bit differently. The opposition go because you never. That's a difficult one to measure, Joe. I think in terms of what's going on in people's heads at that particular time. But yeah, I understand that. That's another layer to it.
So if you're Ryder Cup captain, your best guys are not going out last. You're Paul McGinley, straight out on the Sunday. Rory McIlroy, that kind of thing. What do you think?
Yeah, you're right, because it could be, for this same reason, I suppose, in terms of, it could be beyond you.
Yeah.
You mentioned out the games, didn't you? Like the 4 games, the Netherlands, the England one. What was the fourth one? What was the fourth in the quarter final?
Morocco against Portugal.
Oh, Morocco and Portugal. Yeah, the England game.
We're going to take a break.
Oh, right.
And then we're going to get into this England game.
Oh, are we? Oh, right.
Are there any final thoughts you want to give on Argentina, Netherlands, Brazil, Croatia? Who's going to win between Argentina and Croatia?
I'm leaning.
Messi.
I'm leaning towards.
You're romantic.
For a lot, yeah. But there's a lot of that's multi-layered. Why I've got a bit of a. It's in me, Argentina. If you put two jerseys behind your back, and so I'm gonna whip these 2 jerseys out.
Okay.
And straight away you've got to grab one. Don't even think about it.
Yes.
And you whipped out Brazilian and an Argentinian jersey. I know for certain I'd grab the Argentinian jersey.
Okay.
Without even thinking about it.
Why do you think that is?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Why do you think it is?
Multi-layered.
But give us a layer.
Well, I'll give you one more. I think it's Maradona. For me, I think that's in me. That's I haven't been able to get.
What age were you in '86?
Yeah, so I would have been. Yeah, you're right. 15.
Okay.
And it's not. Yeah, it would be that '86, but Maradona himself, because I would have been watching him like Italy. Napoli, the whole shebang, that period of time which he had made a massive impression for me. So
I could see it in the way you played the game.
What constant handballs, Maradona. When centre forwards were going around me, throwing my hand out.
That was very cheap of me. I can imagine. I see.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So I think there's a bit. So for me, it's not. People say, "Oh, I'd love to see Messi." I don't. For me, I don't necessarily like to see Messi. Win it. It's not like that at all. I'm a little bit detached from him. Messi in certain respects, a brilliant player as he is. We all love him, his qualities.
Yeah.
But I'm
emotion
him a little bit.
Yes.
But the other fella, I'll never get him out. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what's driving it.
I've that detachment to Messi, the person, as well. Actually, it's hard to connect to as a person. He is, but then the football is the football. That's interesting. By the way, sorry, taking an ad break. Gotta go. Were you still on the pitch in 02 for the penalty shootout?
I was down to take one.
What number? 5. Ego. Unbelievable.
Come back to it.
Were you fifth? Were you fifth?
No. Me and Duffers. Me and Duffers were lined up. We didn't take one. When did it end? Did it go to 6?
Can't remember.
I thought it went to a 6 penalty, didn't it?
I can't remember.
I think we were 7-8. We were like, I keep panicking, I'll tell you that. Me and Duffers.
No offence here. Please tell me Duffer was 7 and you were 8.
I'm not too sure.
Oh my God.
I'm not too. He was in a bad way. I remember that. Look, we were both looking at each other like you're saying nothing, but he would have had to take one. Would have been. He never would have lived that down. He'd let me step up and take a penalty ahead of him.
The whole country would have stepped in and said, "Hang on."
It's amazing though, isn't it? Like Duffer's the player he was, technically, and one of our greatest ever in terms of footballers, you know what I mean? So you'd have to ask him. I wouldn't put words into Duffer's mouth, but I'd imagine Duffers was feeling a little bit himself at the time.
The pressure.
Yeah, I just suppose
He was a young player.
And he was young. That's what you forget. Yeah, maybe 4 years after that wouldn't have been an issue with him, but he was young then. Yeah, you're right.
Had you taken a professional penalty in your life before?
I taken one in an FA Cup game for Wimbledon against Wickham. Penalty kick, went to penalty, kicks the game.
With the greatest respect to Wickham,
The only one I ever took.
It's not much preparation for Spain.
It was packed that night, Selhurst. There's about 8,000 people in there. It was packed.
Do you know what you would have done with it?
I hit the bar that night. Do you know what I did? I hit the bar. Listen to this, right? I took a Wickham, hit the bar, hit the post, came out towards me, and I ran. Immediately thought I can score. I thought I could score. Kicked it into the net.
Rebound.
Before I realised, yeah, exactly. So no, that was.
What would you have done with your penalty against Spain?
No idea.
Do you not remember?
I couldn't have.
And were you petrified? I mean, that is not.
I'm not
nice
sure
thought.
about petrified, but
Yeah.
I was feeling it definitely. And you've got that. You know, I could 2 minutes. I could be walking up here to take this, and it's hard. It's hard to focus and get the whole people at home, family, supporters, the whole.
Do you think you would have thought of family and stuff? Would you had images in your head of like my mum's watching this at home as you walk up? I think that's a very natural thing for a lot of players.
Yeah,
they would think
everybody.
of their mum.
It must be different for everybody. That's what people say in terms of focus and a blinkered approach and whatever it is, little things you have to do to get yourself block all those things out. I did a little bit of a taste of it there. I didn't take one obviously, but it was coming. Potentially, I could have. Oh.
What do you think the whole?
I could have taken Tony Cascarino's worst ever penalty for Ireland. Italia, was it Italia 90?
Yeah,
Remember the Duff?
The Duff. What do you
Could
think?
have been worse than that.
What do you think the country would have said watching at home as you were walking up to take the penalty?
Don't fancy him. Oh, we're bunched. There would have been a collective.
Where's Duffer?
Jesus.
Where's Duffer? Can he push Duffer out of the way? I got this, Damien. Don't worry, man.
Mad, innit?
I'd say it's out of body feeling
Harry
as you're
Kane.
walking up.
Harry Kane can miss one.
Okay.
I know it was the second one, but
We'll come back to Harry Kane in just 1 second. Kenny's staying with us. We're continuing here in the football show. We'll talk Harry Kane in just a moment. Football show is brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Here you go, sorry. Hierro first, Robbie Keane first, both scored. Baraja first, Matt Holland second, he missed. Juan Fran missed, David Connolly missed. Valeron missed, Kevin Kilban missed. Mendieta did his thing.
he got his. We missed 3 in the spin, did we? That was his second third.
We went first. Steve Finnan scored. Ireland went first. So Robbie Keane scored the first, went first. Steve Finnan scored, but then Mendieta scored the bobble.
Yeah,
over
down the
Shea.
middle.
That bobble was cruel. Cruel.
I know. His trading leg, wasn't he? Almost got his foot to it, Shea. Yeah. He's a good player, that Mendieta, though.
Yeah, he was.
He was calm. I remember that watching him going up thinking of.
He was at his peak
He,
then.
he looks calm.
2002 period. But what could have been? Who would have gone 6th? We don't know. Then Kenny 7th, Duffer 8th. Chilling thought. We'll take a break. We'll talk England-France next. Back in 1 sec.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk. Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, get more of the sports you love on Sports Extra with BT Sport and Premier Sports.
This is News Talk.
You're very welcome back. Joe Molloy here, Kenny Cunningham alongside me. England-France. Discuss. High quality game. People talk about it as the quasi-final in some respects, that whoever won was going to be the favourites for the tournament. Do you subscribe to that?
I think that's fair comment. Yeah.
Did it live up to, in terms of quality of, two big teams? Was it the game you'd hoped for?
Probably, as expected. Yeah, probably panned out as expected in terms of starting 11s, no real surprises. I was half thinking maybe would Deschamps, would he just got an extra player in central midfield, just maybe paid England a bit more respect and got an extra centre midfielder, and they just to lock down that central midfield. They maybe sacrificed one of his front four, which he's done previously, but he didn't. The balance of the team had been good up until then. Dembele and Mbappe had been playing well, and
It's hard to drop any of them.
Griezmann. It would have been.
What do you make of Griezmann, the midfielder?
What, number 10?
Well, he's been dropping back deeper.
Yeah,
than
he
that as well.
does,
He's
but
been
he
great.
really he operates as a 10. Ideally, you'd want him in front of the two, and Rabiot and Toussaint. That's really where he should be. I wouldn't say he's ill-disciplined, but he gives him freedom to drop into... I don't like to see a number 10 drop that deep, to be honest with you. You know, beyond the midfield too, getting in contact with the back four.
Do you not?
No, he was lovely one touch and he was moving the ball around, but just the distance too far from them to travel, like to get up the pitch and get involved higher up the pitch. I like to see me number 10 be a bit more disciplined and keep himself between the lines, you know, other side of the midfield too, and really trust the two midfielders. Toussaint is a good ball player, and Rabiot to a certain extent, to get on the ball and find them in the pockets. And now he's getting the ball now 40 yards further up the pitch. Now he's playing killer balls, you know, through to Mbappe, Dembele or Giroud. So yeah, he's very easy on the eye. One's technically a lovely player, but I get a little bit frustrated when he goes too deep. He detaches himself too much from the front three. That's all I'd say.
Do you suspect he's been told to go deep and take ball off centre half, or do you think
not particularly.
do you think he's enjoying getting his touches and being involved?
Yeah. I think he has a little bit of freedom to do it. Don't get me wrong. It's not the fact he's going back and just knocking it back to centre halves, which you see some players do. He's getting on the half turn. It's a one touch around the corner out to a full back and getting them out. You know what I mean? So not being overly critical of him. It's just a small thing. I just like that number 10. I just like to see him show a bit more discipline high up the pitch. But no surprises there. The England starting 11 is always a bone of contention for me. So people say, you can't be critical of Southgate, you know, World Cup final, semi-final championships, European Championships final, blah blah blah. But for me, I always say, well, look, I always look at this team the squad he's had available to him, and ask myself, has he got the best out of that squad? So say, for example, again, so say go back to the Italy game, the final, for me, massive opportunity missed. I know that's a bit of a cliche now, but for me, with good reason. So that Italian team was there for the taking.
Arthur wanted to stop hitting the table.
Oh, excuse me. Aging Italian team just couldn't live with England's pace, couldn't physicality, but just didn't get enough of those players on the pitch. Mindset as well in terms of big conserve, so that one got away from them. And I just feel, again, maybe it's just me, like, being a bit fixated on it, but for me, that England team with the players they have at the moment, you got to split it in two. The outfield players, those 10 outfield players, you literally divide the team in two. Defensive 5 and a forward 5. Back 4, Declan Rice, and you play with a front 5. 2 attacking number 8s and a front 3.
Okay.
And he's never quite committed to that, Joe. He's always not even in between. He's always leaning towards a Henderson, Calvin Phillips in that central area of the pitch, almost the two defensive-minded players. He's never quite committed.
And is there an argument that in Henderson, who popped up brilliantly to score that goal from Bellingham, that yes, I appreciate he's more defensively minded, but he's been given a licence to use his energy and to get forward a little bit. So it's a fair enough-ish balance.
I think you can argue it both ways. You can argue, well, the balance, we're talking about defensive structure, you've got to have the balance right. People are like, well, Henderson in there gives you a lot of defence, and I understand that. But for me, that France game was another example of a similar to the Italy game in the final, because England got on top in that second half for about maybe half an hour. They were in possession. They had a French pen and a huge amount of possession of the football, but they really created very little.
Yeah, it's funny because they had 14 efforts to France's 8, and they had 56% possession. And as you said, for a good chunk of the game, we're very much on top. And yet the one qualm you'd have to have is, what was the gilt-edged chance they created?
Yeah.
And there wasn't one.
So for me, that's where the difference is. So for me, if you commit to a front 5 of Foden, for me, in his best position, which we very rarely see him for Manchester City or England. Foden's a central midfield player, attacking central midfield player. I mean, everybody's saying it, but he's done so well operating wide of a 3 for Manchester City. That's where he's kind of bedded in, and that's where Southgate's used him. For me, this kid, you're going to get an extra 20% out of this kid if you're playing a bit deeper in central midfield, because what he's going to do, Joe, he's going to pick the ball up deeper in central areas, get turned, and when this kid's running at you with speed,
that's fair.
He's unbelievable. And we don't see it from those wide areas because he's coming from a higher position. He's coming on the half turner from a wide area to receive the ball, as opposed to deeper centrally where he can get turned earlier and go straight at people. And I haven't seen anybody since probably English player, Jack Wilshere was probably the closest I've seen when he broke through. Ball playing centre midfield, a dribbler who could actually go and commit people and take people on. So I'd reference that period of the game, second half, when England had the ball.
Yes.
If they'd had Foden and Bellingham for 25 minutes, half an hour in central midfield with Rice behind them, and take your pick at a front 3. Yes. I think that's the difference. I think England score in that period. I think they get themselves ahead, and then it's a totally different game. France come out, they could end up winning that game 3 or 4-1.
Yes.
England then on the counter attack. So that's an easy one to argue. We'll never know. But I just feel that's how I see it with this England team. Is there more to come? I think there is. There's another 20% from an attacking point of view to come, and you get there by committing to those. Not even Foden, Bellingham. For me, you can play Maddison in there. You can play Mount as one of those attacking number 8s. That's what I'm talking about. And you don't. And the beauty about these players, Joe, you don't carry them out of possession. Foden, see how hard he works like wide of a 3 up and down the pitch.
An incredible presser at the ball.
So I don't even think there's Henderson there gives you a little bit defensive. I understand that, but you can't tell me you're carrying Foden out of possession. That central area, his lungs of a racehorse up and down, and discipline as well. So that's for me as I see it with England. I think again, it's an opportunity missed, and that's why I'd actually probably just target that one area of the pitch and say for me that's cost them, because I think that game was there for the taking in that period of time, but they didn't have the personnel on the pitch in those key areas to take advantage of it. That's what I'm saying.
It'd be so interesting to pick Southgate's brain off the record in private now and say, why didn't you go for it when you had that chance? He does have an instinctive
But you know the argument, wouldn't you? I mean, and I think that it's a fair argument. He said, well, balance. It's all about balancing the team. The French, you got respect, counter-attack, and Mbappe down that side of the pitch. I wanted Henderson there, his defensive qualities.
If we concede another goal, we're gone.
To drop in there, you know what I mean? So I think there is a fair argument. It's not like I'm scratching my head thinking, oh my, what's he thinking of here, the manager? I'm not saying that. Wouldn't disrespect him by saying that. But for me, my gut feeling tells me that's the players they have available to them in those positions, those 2 number 8s, particularly with Rice behind them, who's disciplined. He'll sit it. Even if you have to pull the fullbacks in a touch and say, look, don't want you going gung-ho all the time. I almost say to your front 5,
away you go.
Off you go.
Yeah.
We'll just support you from behind.
But would that not be what you're criticising Brazil for doing?
No, because I don't think they did it either. Oh, you're talking about Paqueta and Neymar. No, they're different types for me. They're like almost 2 number 10s. Where I think the distinction for me between 2 number 8s in a 3 and 2 10. 2 number 8s are more your box to box central midfielders. You can trust them in and out possession of the football.
Your point about Foden's pressing is okay. God, it'd be interesting to know, because I mean they were very good in that game. It does feel like this is and various people have made the point. This is a slightly different England loss to previous England losses at World Cups where they were outclassed. There's a sense they were good enough to win that.
But I don't think kidding themselves that they think we just got to replicate that performance. It's only a matter of time before we get. I don't. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
For me, they have to change.
Because the argument is made, we did everything right. We were a bit unlucky.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. No, I don't buy into that.
Okay.
I've always looked at that performance thinking, look, I couldn't be critical. He's rinsed every little juice out of that.
Yes.
Fair, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think he has. And it's not because the players on the pitch didn't produce it, Joe. I don't think he had the right personnel on the pitch to do that. And if you remember, like James Maddison, when he was at his best at Leicester a couple of years ago, he played with Tielemans in those positions, 2 8s, and had Ndidi behind him, 4-3-3, same as England, and he was unbelievable. Left-sided assists, goals. Tielemans was the same, to be honest. That's when he played at his best in the 3s, a left-sided 8 as well. So they have the players. Personnel. They actually have. It's not like round, square pegs and round holes I'm talking about. For me, they've got a system. They've got players who can very easily slide into it.
And tell me this: do you think it's what's the right word? We'll say acceptable. Or can you see how Southgate started with the team he started with, and you feel that mid-game he should have recognised they were on top and then made that switch and get Foden into midfield, get that 2 number 8s into midfield? Or do you think he should start in that more attacking?
I think he should start.
Okay.
I think he said, because that team for me, I don't look at that team that I've thrown up there and think, a little bit out of kilter here. We're gambling here. Once we haven't got the ball, we're going to be overly exposed.
Yeah.
Jude Bellingham, you can't tell me you can't trust him when you lose possession of the ball.
No, he was back in his own byline winning balls. He does.
Foden, example. I think Maddison, to be fair, is one you could argue out possession, that central area. Could you trust him? He hasn't got the legs, the athleticism of those other players that we're talking about. I think that may be a fair argument, but no. I just feel as if
my sense is Southgate has that slight defensive leaning, and in 2 years' time at the Euros, if he stays on, it'll be a similar configuration and not that more attacking.
Yeah, I think he'd probably thrown as well, Joe. He'd probably roll it back as well to the 2 centre-halves, Maguire, and say another reason for getting that maybe defensive minded. Doesn't have a huge amount of trust to that pairing behind. If he had 2 top-class centre-halves, as England have had previously, operating behind, maybe that might be the trigger from right. I can let loose a little bit now in that central
That's
area, get more attack-minded player.
and if
It's fair
that's
argument.
fair. Yeah,
it is
it
fair
is fair.
argument. But I've got to be honest with you, my gut feeling is looking at that England team is there's from an attacking point of view, there's more to come. And if they had tapped into that, for me, that's the difference. Fine margins was on my games. I was sick of it. Cliche. Fine margins, but this is significant for me. That kind of change that I'm talking about. And you can argue up front, down the sides. You can argue Sterling, Rashford, Grealish off this. So I don't think that's I wouldn't fall out with you over that. Saka for me picks himself down the right hand side. And then you take your pick off the left. Rashford for me was very unlucky. He's one of those players. He's just pitched up at the tournament, and very quickly you got to keep him in the team. Off the back of the 2 goals he scored, but that wasn't the case. He's thrown Foden. You got to get Foden in the team. This is the thing, innit? It's almost I've got to get him in the team. I'll throw him left of a tree. He's not out of position there. He's done well there. He can play there, but you know what I mean. For me, that's frustration. Him inside and Rashford off the left. Saka and Kane. I'm looking at thinking, wow, I can't see too many defences who can cope with that over the course of 90 minutes. Even if you're conceding 1 or 2 the other end, there's goals there, Joe. There's goals, chances. That's an exciting England team. That's an England team which I'm at. I want to see that team play. Yeah. That's phenomenal.
Oh, it's so interesting. World Cup, it's just the best. It really is. I mean, all these minor moments and choices. And you know what's so kind of compelling about the whole thing? I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I was even mentioning it on the Sunday paper review yesterday, that whole line, that Lennon line, there are decades where weeks happened and weeks where decades happened. So this World Cup, it has that kind of expedited quality where for certain players it's career defining. So Neymar, Ronaldo, there are the tears. Messi, it's still alive. Mbappe could do something kind of historic akin to Pele. Modric could elevate his standing. And I think it's particularly compelling this World Cup because several of those great players are at the end. So in Ronaldo and Messi, Ronaldo walked off in tears and Neymar probably the same because that's it now. Yeah. It's not like, 4 years' time, 8 years' time. It's over. We now know how it ends for Ronaldo. We now probably know how it ends for Neymar. It's the final chapter of their career has been written across just a few kind of couple of days. Yeah. And that's the incredible dimension to this World Cup. So if you love the game and you're invested in the game and think how many hours we spent watching these players and you're assessing their career, and their careers are important to football. If you love football, they're important to us. So that's why when you suddenly boil in on Messi, the 90 minutes on Tuesday, it's no wonder the whole football world is coming to the standstill. This could change how we talk about Messi versus Maradona, how we see his career. And of course, an individual shouldn't be overly defined by how a team do, but it's a part of it. And so years of a career being boiled down to that 90 minutes. Yeah. And it's just so compelling. And it's been a curious aspect of this World Cup that in several of those instances, there is no 4 years' time. This is it. Of
course, you're right.
This is the career being written.
I think of them, though, Messi is the most. For me, the Ronaldo thing, really, I couldn't kind of buy into the storyline there because that was kind of fractured, in terms of where he is physically.
Sure.
He's really struggling. It has been for some time. It's been a tough watch. So I don't.
He might have had to come off the bench and score the winner. But
even when he came off the bench the other day,
he's done.
I wasn't. Yeah, you just get a bit of a sense of watch a little. I wouldn't say car crash, you know what I mean. But is that get a sense that for me, Messi, it's different. There's still a bit of, not just a bit of fire there, there's enough quality there. He's suggests enough, he's shown enough to indicate, no, I'm still invested in this fella could actually, as much as I'm saying support cast, he can't do it on his own. I'm looking at him thinking, I'm starting to doubt myself a little. Maybe he can.
Do you think maybe
he literally?
Do you think he's
so that's
almost
exciting?
There's adrenaline and inspiration, and he's almost. It's
but
like
I tell
one
you what,
last
Joe.
dance kind of thing.
I've never seen him after those games, those at post match. So no, at a club level, and you wouldn't get involved in that type of thing. But just in terms of with the team together, the fans, facial expressions.
See the interview where he was telling Weghorst to, "What are you looking at? Move." Do you see that interview?
No.
Oh yeah, and I've never seen Messi do this. There's an interview where there's some poor lad sticking a mic at him, and Messi's looking up and it's translating. He says, "What are you looking at?" And he tells
so exactly.
The guy to
So that you would never see that, do we? But so he's fired up. There's something going on inside, and probably what you're talking about, that realization.
There's no tomorrow.
But also probably realization that I can make the difference. I'm feeling it. I'm actually playing well. I'm feeling good. I'm moving. I'm in good nick here. I can do this. It's actually happening. So it's a bit of excitement, dread, everything. So for me, that's it. And even looking at him, big smiles. you know, singing with the. And this is a player like people question big time, didn't they, in terms of when he in the Argentinian team, is he really committed? Like, is he, you know, he's Spanish, he's been away from the country, blah, blah, blah. But yes, you're getting a sense that, so I'm all in now in terms of, which I never was, not even from the start of the tournament. You could see, we knew that when he was even going in there, this is going to end badly. But Messi for me is absolutely fascinating. That's kind of that's the story kind of now going forward in the last two games.
So look, give me that over oil-rich nation state against US hedge fund in the Champions League any day of the week. Like, this is real. It's so good.
And I'd say, sorry, Joe. Yeah, what's been refreshing as well is like those African Arab countries. For me, they've elevated the whole competition, because there was periods there, the early parts of the tournament, look at empty seats. There was a lot of comment on it. Well, where's all empty seats? It was a bit quiet. You can hear people talk, and I just felt, oh no, where's this going? Like, this flat pancake job here. And those games that I'm talking about, Saudi Arabia, their supporters, Tunisian supporters in the first game, all of a sudden that noise coming through the TV, watching it, you know, seeing their faces, you know, how the flags, how they were dressed, the energy they brought to the tournament. For me, they've been a real significant factor, bigger contribution than ever for me in terms of success to the competition, like Cameroon, Ghana, Tunisia. I've mentioned them all. Like, they've been a little bit viewed as the poor relations previously, haven't they? Of one of them pitch up and, you know, give us 90 minutes, happy days, whatever. But we've got the European powerhouses. They're going to drive the competition. That's what we need. Yeah. Where this World Cup, Belgium, forget it. Absolutely right off. Germany, real struggling for the majority of the tournament. And it's been those kind of lesser nations, to a certain extent, for me, that we've all kind of, you know, rallied behind.
Yeah. By the way, very final thought. I must say, I thought I agreed with you on the TV when your instinct for the Netherlands free kick was that they just caught each other's eye and thought, go on, be ready, fire it into him. I think Kenny's right there, because it's, would you rehearse that free? Would you do it?
Yeah, and then who knows?
But then, have you not seen this?
Oh, there's a little previous, is there?
With Weghorst.
Oh, was that?
Which Van Gaal said, he brought it from his club.
Ah, interesting.
So there, I mean, what? Talk about pulling that one out of the back
wouldn't
pocket.
Surprise me. No, it wouldn't surprise me.
Van Gaal said he brought it from club, and we had rehearsed it, and we.
But
used
I tell you what, even still, if that was rehearsed, that still takes nerve. Particularly that fella over the ball, Berghaus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Knowing that's what's at stake, if he doesn't quite execute that, if an opposition defender reads it, steps in front, takes the ball,
he looks silly.
Can you imagine the whole edifice is coming? Yeah. So just to have the nerve, I know it was only a little kind of reasonably simple pass, but unbelievable nerve if that was the case. Amazing at that stage again. Because I know as a defender there, your head's gone. It's the seconds left. They're committing players into the box. Before the game, you got your man to mark, you got your little zone out. Well, forget about that. That's totally out the window. Yeah. Like pretty much last kick of the game. It's like madness inside that penalty area. Your head's kind of spinning. You're trying to get a bit of calm and just to assess things from a defender's point of view. Like, you know what I mean? So that little bit of precision ball, you know, it takes everybody.
It was what a moment.
Fair play.
It was an amazing moment. We're out of time. That's great. Good to catch you up and talk some football with you. We've gone way over. Our football coverage is brought to you thanks to Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Kenny Cunningham, pleasure. Thanks very much.
Nice one, Joe.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, proud partner and supporter of the Republic of Ireland women's national football team.
This is News Talk.